Good morning, everyone. My name is Yaron. I'm the co-music producer for the Center for Spiritual Living, and I want to dedicate a little song for you. Lying in my bed, I hear the clock tick, and I think of you, caught up in circles. Confusion is nothing new. Flashback, warm nights, almost left behind. Suitcase of memories. Time after, sometimes you picture me. I'm walking too far ahead. You're calling to me. I can hear for what you said. Then you say, go slow. I fell behind. The second hand unwind. If you lost, you can look and you will find me. Time after time. If you fall, I will catch you. We'll be waiting. Time after time. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me. Time after time. If you fall, I will catch you. I will be waiting. Time after time. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me. Time after time. If you fall, I will catch you. I will be waiting. Time after time. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me. Time after time. If you fall, I will catch you. I will be waiting. Time after time. Time after time. Time after time. Time after the time.
Good morning and thank you, Yaron. A good morning to everyone and welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living, Los Angeles. I'm Reverend Dr. Keith Cox and I am the spiritual leader of our beloved community. And I say welcome once again to one and all that are joining us today through the wonderful aspects of technology, both through Zoom and the internet, through Facebook, and any other method that you may be joining us at some later date. I'm honored to have you be a part of this community as we continue to support individuals finding their personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening. Well, here we are again, another Sunday morning. It's so wonderful to be together this morning after a wild week here, not only in the city of Los Angeles, but across the nation and around our planet. So I invite you today to sit back, to turn your cameras off and just take the service in and watch and enjoy, and to know that at the end of our service, once we disconnect from Facebook, we'll give you the opportunity to turn your cameras on and for us to commune together by saying hello, having a cup of coffee, water, or whatever the case may be that will help you ground yourself. We have a wonderful service planned for you today, and I'm so happy to have you meet one of our musicians, our guest musician today. You've already heard Yaron Spiewak sing for us, our co-music director, and we have with us today Enjoy Fountain. Enjoy, could you turn your camera on, please? Enjoy is here with us today. Hi, Enjoy. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
We're great. Everyone's muted, so they can't necessarily respond, but I know that there's a great bit of excitement from our community and those that are beyond in the technological world to have you here with us today
Yes,
and
I'm so
sharing your
excited.
gift coming from Wichita, Kansas,
Mhm.
right? And you're home with your daughter, Odessa,
Yes,
I
trying to
believe.
keep her quiet right now.
Well, she's being Odessa, so
She
she'll
is.
do what she needs to do, right? So
Exactly.
we honor her today, and hopefully, the service that we have planned will help all of us realize that our role in life is to create a better world for ourselves and Odessa.
Yes.
So, I will introduce you again later with your first song. So, thanks for being here.
Hey, of course.
Absolutely. So, as a community, we've come together in the city of Los Angeles for a little over 30 years now. We're a part of what's known as the New Thought movement. It's a movement that was created in the late 1800s as it spread across America and eventually around the world, where individuals decided that it was time to separate from traditional religion in the sense and began to become aware that the presence of the creator of the universe is not simply a presence that's external and that's judging us from beyond, but it's a presence that's infinite by nature. It's indwelling within you and within me, and that we both use it, express it, and experience it through our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions, our reactions, and our interactions with life itself. We primarily focus on the teachings of Dr. Ernest Holmes, who created a philosophy known as the science of mind, which reiterates exactly what I said, that there's an indwelling presence. One of the components that we also know within this teaching as a philosophy and faith and way of life is that we are imbued with qualities of this divine presence that exists within us. They are peace, power, beauty, joy, light, life, love, and wisdom, and that we get to experience these qualities to the degree that we become conscious of them in our heart, our soul, and our being, and then live accordingly. In other words, as we use our mind to own the peace, power, beauty, joy, light, life, love, and wisdom, because we live in a universe that is governed by spiritual law, then that shall be made manifest through us, both individually, because we're all individualized expressions of the only thing there is, but also collectively, because we're connected in a way that is almost beyond comprehension at times, but yet we know that we are connected because there truly is only one thing ever taking place. And so, on behalf of our founding minister, Reverend Dr. David Walker, who has since passed on to the next plane of action, as he used to say each and every Sunday morning, and I know that he would be happy to know that we're continuing that tradition this morning as we say aloud, we welcome one and we welcome all. And so I invite you to just take a deep breath in right now and just settle into where you are. Take a drink of water, as I shall do, as I hydrate my soul and my being, and ready ourselves to move into our celebration service this morning. We begin each service with a ritual called the morning ritual. It's traditionally called calling in the light. And today, I know more than ever, we all welcome the opportunity to call the light into our life. And so, the way that this will look is we will take a moment to anchor ourselves as we just did, realizing and remembering that we are interconnected with each other. As we have music that we will sing in a moment called Let There Be Peace on Earth. If we were in our building, we would light a candle in person, but this morning we light a virtual candle. You can see from the backdrop and the flame of the candle that is the colors of the rainbow that we kick off Pride Month on our planet today. And so I invite us to take a moment to honor the diversity of all life. And as we honor this diversity, we just close our eyes and anchor into the goodness of life that exists. And today I share the screen that we had last week as we light the candle. Thinking of each flickering flame that represents each individual of life itself. And as we remember to be the change that we desire to be in the world today, affirming justice for all, I declare the words of Mahatma Gandhi as we create this offering and blessings for all individuals. Today, I offer you peace. I offer you love. I offer you friendship. I see your beauty. I hear your need. I feel your feelings. My wisdom flows from the highest source, and I salute that source in you. For today, more than ever, let us work together for unity and for peace. As we affirm by singing together the song, "Let There Be Peace on Earth," and Yaron will guide us.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, where God is creator, united all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my soul and vow to take each moment and live each moment with peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
I invite you to join in this affirmative prayer, also known as spiritual mind treatment, as I affirm and declare that peace is on earth. And it has begun with each and every one of us, and it's an outpicturing of our conscious desire to work together, to be the change that is being called for on our planet, to eradicate and erase racism, hatred, violence, and the unjust behaviors and decisions that continue to cause oppression. And so today is the day that we each choose to rise up into a new frame of mind, declaring with a covenant and a commitment to be a conscious participant in this evolutionary process of making a difference. And so we do our part in the puzzle of this evolution of manifesting peace and consciously, hand to hand, heart to heart, mind to mind, soul to soul, walk with each other in perfect harmony, being the change today. As we say together, and so it is. So what a week we've had, huh? It's been a very interesting week, and one that has been most fulfilling on so many levels, and heart and mind and soul and being, and yet disturbing and unsettling at the same time, all which is a requirement as this change that we seek to have takes place. This morning, our guest musician could not be the more perfect person to lead us in music with her gift and her talent and her heart and her soul, a woman of very big heart and soul. Her credits are long, but the one that I want to point out for all of us is that she was just recently on The Voice that aired in 2019. She made it all the way to the battleground, being on Kelly Clarkson's team. It's my honor and privilege to have her back here today at the Center for Spiritual Living, certainly in a much different format than the last time we were here with Enjoy, or she was here with us. So Enjoy, you're here to take us on a journey of a beautiful song today that speaks to where we are on the journey of evolution on our planet and certainly in our world. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my distinct honor to introduce to you singing the beautiful song Rise Up by Andra Day. Enjoy, Fountain.
Thank you, Keith. You're broken down and tired, living life on a merry-go-round, and you can find the finder, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out and move mountains. Gonna walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, high like the waves. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you. When the silence isn't quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe, and I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world at its feet and move mountains, bring it to its feet, move. And I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you. of each other. We will rise, we will rise. Oh, we'll rise up, rise like the day, I'll rise up. In spite of the end, I'll rise up. Do 1,000 times again. We'll rise up, rise like the waves. We'll rise up. In spite of the end, we'll rise up. And we'll do 1,000 times again. For you.
Thank you. I'm clapping for you, and you can't see this, but there.
That's cool. Oh my
See the
goodness.
claps on the screen?
Oh my goodness. Cool. Okay, I'll be back, y'all.
We love you. Thank you so very much. So I'll just take that in for a second as we rise up. A 1,000 times we're called to do that, to rise up. Today kicks off the first Sunday of the month of June. Around the world, this is known as Pride Month. Today, my message is titled Pride, a Way of Life. Let's let that sink in for a moment and ask yourself, do you feel pride right now based on what has unfolded in the last weeks and all that was leading up to that and the way that you've shown up? And if not, let's choose to feel that for ourselves right now. And then open our being to receive a message today that will support us and guide us into the next steps of living. For pride, we've seen today in so many different ways across our planet and through the United States of people out protesting and marching and making their voice heard. And these moments of pride that we experience today, honoring LGBT individuals and Q and plus around the world, came from protest, and it came from being defiant at times, and it came from not accepting the norm. And that is indeed what is transpiring today. It's a calling from deep within that is saying it is time to make our voices heard and to invoke change on this planet. As a mentor, Reverend Temple Hayes, said this morning in her message, united we stand, divided we distract. Today is the day that we stand united, committing together to make a difference and to protest and to stand up and declare that enough is enough and that no longer we allow these inequities, the injustices to take place on this planet. So why should we protest? Well, we protest because we're here to make a difference. We protest because we're tired of dealing with this crap, as the sign says in the upper left-hand corner. We protest because it's the only way that we have in our country to have our voices heard and make a difference. We are owed that right through the preamble to the Constitution and the Constitution itself, where it tells us that we, the people of the United States of America, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. That is indeed what is being fought for today, marched for today, and yes, on some levels, even rioted for today, so that we may indeed secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and posterity for the future. It goes on to say here that we hold these truths self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And yet we know without a shadow of a doubt that is not true for everyone on this planet. We may be those individuals that it's not been true for. A person of color, a gay individual, a woman. And so it's been a requirement for us over the years to take to the streets and stand up, to rise up and do our part to make a difference. This has transpired on our planet before, either through women's rights or the Vietnam War or ERA or no nukes or the Million Man March. And the list goes on and on and on. With the most recent of them on our planet prior to these was the Women's March in January of 2018. And I find it wonderful for us to know that indeed action changes things, and it's the things that need to be changed that are being called for today that is unfolding in the streets of our country that's saying now is the time. And so today I invite you to take a self-inventory and to ask yourself, are you doing your part? And yes, we may all believe that we've done our part up until today. And for that, I say thank you. Not just whether you've done your part in this particular unrest that is unfolding on our planet, but if you've done your part leading up to this, no matter what you may have protested or marched for or sang for or yelled for or written for, thank you. But as it says in the song, 1,000 times more we're called to do this. But I want us to look at today's, yes, a new experience and expression that we are indeed marching for. But let's take a look at just over 100 years ago. There was the women's suffrage procession that took place on the streets of Washington in 1913. It was the first large organized march in Washington for political purposes. We had the March on Washington that took place for jobs and freedom in Washington, as I said, in Washington in August 1963, where Dr. Martin Luther King declared his famous I Have a Dream speech. In the 1970s, the marches began for LGBT rights post-Stonewall and Christopher Street, and eventually moved into Washington over the years. And look at where we are today. But where we are today on June 7th in the year 2020, not just as gay people, but as people, as humans, as divine beings expressing our right to express our rights, we're here. We're here. We are here. With marching, sometimes safe, sometimes not, sometimes loud, sometimes silent, on the streets of Los Angeles, California. Yesterday, I went and participated in a rally near my home, and it was so beautiful to hear individuals screaming, Breonna Taylor, the young woman who was shot to death, murdered in her home back recently, and yesterday was her birthday. And I saw this sign that says, I don't understand, but I stand. Yes, we've seen the National Guard on our streets, the photos that you're looking at on your screen of ones that I took at the Grove and the Farmers Market this week. And as unsettling as it is to see the National Guard on our streets, there's something deep within me that knows that it's part of this evolution that is taking place that may require somewhat of a revolution. And so where it tells us here in the statement of I understand that I will never understand, however I stand with you, that is both symbolic and is somewhat real, because we cannot walk in each other's shoes. And so there's no way for us to understand what each individual has experienced in their life, and yet we can stand together and take a stand to make a difference. One of the things that drew me to this community, at the time known as the Los Angeles Church of Religious Science, was the mission statement was making a difference. And I remember that Dr. Walker was working diligently at times to create manners for us to make a difference on this planet. And I took that to heart, as I'm sure many of you have. And so today we're being called again to make a difference, to stand up and to declare and demand that our government understands that Black lives matter. I think it's so wonderful what the mayor of Washington, D.C. did when she painted these words that have such profound meaning there right in front of the White House. That we can't hear this enough, but it's important for us to know that it's not just about being a mantra. It's about doing our part to make this a reality where it currently may not be. For we have an illness in our world today. Yes, it's a COVID-19 pandemic illness, but there's another illness. As Dr. Sanjay Gupta told us recently, the country and the world are facing a serious illness, but it is treatable, it's fixable. Let's do this together. At the time, he was referencing the COVID pandemic, but I think it's important for us to realize these words ring true as we look at the illness of racism. And so today is the day for each and every one of us individually and us collectively to choose to make a difference. And we do that by not only holding a vision, but choosing a pathway to execute that vision. Henry Ford tells us that vision without execution is just hallucination. This is akin to the statement that Dr. Ernest Holmes states, which is information without application is hallucination. It reminds me of the show that you've heard me speak of before by Oprah Winfrey when she had shown a show about female genital mutilation that was taking place in Africa. And in that moment at the end of the show, she looked at the camera and said, "Now you know. Now you know. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" Today, I ask you, what are you going to do about this illness called racism? Are you willing to do your part and to think outside the box of what is normal behavior for you and choose to be a conscious participant in the evolutionary process of bringing the puzzle pieces back of humanity and divinity and the rights for all, honoring these inalienable rights for everyone to pursue happiness and justice and liberty and peace and equality? We have the opportunity to do that today as mental scientists, because we know that there is this balance between our humanity and our divinity. I've spoken of it many times that we are each connected at this place known as our divinity, but we both process and express and experience that divinity through our humanity. And so today is the day that I invite you to open your mind, to be open to a calling to participate in this change for good on our planet today in a way by using your divinity to be the impulse for how you act on your humanity. And yes, we know that this is incumbent upon us because we're interconnected. And as I've said many times before, we're not just our brothers and sisters keepers, for we are our brothers and sisters. And this is no more evident than it is today in what's being called forth of the change that needs to take place systematically in our country, in our world. For we know that we indeed can make a difference, and we know that we have the power. For we also know, as we always have, that there's only one life, one power, and indeed one mind. The question I have for us, what are we willing to do with that one life, that one mind, that one power, the one? For we are indeed one. And so today, I'm not just asking you to refine your understanding of your divinity. I'm asking you to be willing to do your part at the human level to magnify the divinity that exists within each and every one of us. The song that Enjoy sang for us from Andra Day that was sung and recorded and released in 2015 is so poignant and perfect today as we read the lyrics. The lyric says, "You're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round. and you can't find the fighter. But I see it in you, so we're going to walk it out and move mountains. We're going to walk it out and move mountains, and I'll rise up. I'll rise like the day, for I'll rise up. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. I'll rise up, high like the waves, for I will rise up. In spite of the ache, I'll rise up. When the silence isn't quiet and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe, and I know you feel like dying, I'll rise up. But I promise we'll take the world to its feet and move mountains. We'll take it to its feet. For today, I'll rise up and move mountains, and I'll rise up. I'll rise like the day, and I'll rise up. Now I know that when these lyrics were written and these lyrics were published, there's no way that we could have known the depth of the meaning of when the silence isn't quiet and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe, and I know you feel like dying, for we have witnessed that on the screen with the life as it left its body for George Floyd. But because we've witnessed this, and because we know that we know it is indeed time to rise up in our own way, to be a part, to make a difference, and be the change. The acronym that I have for Rise Up that I used several weeks ago is this: relaxing into spirit, energizes universal power. I invite you today, I encourage you today to relax into this oneness that we have, letting that energize our universal power so that we may then rise up as a human and take the next step to indeed make a difference. To live from what is possible in the future, letting go of the past. For Deepak Chopra tells us that every time that we are tempted to react in the same old way, to ask ourselves, do we want to be a prisoner of the past? Or do we indeed want to be a pioneer of the future? Either way, it's all a construct of what's taking place in our inner life, our thoughts, emotions, our memory, and our desire. And so today I want us to choose to never be a prisoner of our past, to rise up and to honor our thoughts, emotions, our memory, and desires from the past, and to remember that the creative power of the universe, the law of life, has responded to that declaration, that demand that we placed upon it, and brought forth to us, through us, an experience of life that was a manifestation of good in not only our individual lives, but that of the life of humanity and all sentient beings collectively. As we know with this law, this principle of life that we're speaking of, that it's not bound by precedent. So if it's ever worked once, it will work again. And today is the day that we call upon it to work again. As we relax into the spiritual nature of who we are, the oneness of life, the co-creative power that we have, and then use that as it energizes that power within us, and choose to take action, which will indeed change things on this planet. That's what's being called for, as I stated again. And just like we did last week, as we were reminded and chose to remember and being informed to remember by Paul S. Boynton, who writes to begin with, yes, that as we step into the unknown, we discover that we can be fragile and strong and terrified and brave all at the same time. And so you and I are being called forth right now to be strong and feel that fear if we're terrified, to be brave and yet allow ourselves to experience the fragility of what's unfolding right now. But to remember, as we look on the screen at that stained glass window that we looked at last week, of the V that symbolizes the creative process of the universe, to remember that the law of life, the creative principle of life, knows not of what takes place on our planet, for it is impersonal. It's always doing its part of responding by corresponding to that which we place upon it. And so today I affirm for each one of us that what we place upon it is an open mind, ready to be a pioneer for the future, ready to act in a way that is reflective of a new state of mind. So now that we know and we know that we know, now that we remember that the law of life is ever present and not bound by principle and infinite by nature in its ability to move through us and create for us and manifest for us that which is a part of our conscious individually and collectively, I invite us to start anew. The second song that Enjoy will speak for us is The Man in the Mirror. And the lyrics that Michael Jackson sang to us are these: I'm starting with the man in the mirror. That's where I start. Man meeting male, female, and everything in between and beyond. I'm starting with the human in the mirror, and I'm asking them to change their way. And no message could have been any clearer. For if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. That's what's being called for today, for us to make a change. And to not judge ourselves for what was, what is, or even what is to become, but to have faith in that principle of life that will bring forward through us an experience in life that is equal to us owning who we are as divine beings, being unflawed, and yet being human beings that have flaws. And so today is the day to begin those conversations as we participate in the change that we desire to be and see and to express and experience in the world. And the conversation that we begin with is the one that we heard about or read about just then in those lyrics, to begin with the self by taking a look at the human in the mirror. Well, what does that look like? What does that sound like? This conversation of creating a new consciousness that then is placed upon this law of creation that must be brought forth into form in our world. Well, what that looks like is this. It's important for us to be willing to have a conversation about race. As it tells us from this slide from the National Museum of African American History and Culture, that talking about race is a lifelong journey. And so today I invite you to participate in this conversation, starting with yourself, and this is it. To ask yourself without judgment, when was the first time that you were aware of your race? What do you remember from childhood about how you made sense of human differences? What confused you? What childhood memories did you have with friends or adults who were different from you in some way? How, if ever, did any adult give you help thinking about racial difference? And then let's ask ourselves, why is it important for us to talk about race? Well, it's important for this reason, that everyone has a racialized identity. Everyone has a racialized identity. It matters because racialized identity has a major impact on a person's life. That race is a defining social construct in American life. And it's important for us to remember that we each have that, and to not be afraid to communicate, to ask questions, to listen, and to be a conscious evolutionist in the process of making a difference. And so today, as we ask ourselves, what can I do? Well, what I can do is commit to not be blind to the invisible system of privilege that we have, and to develop an awareness of other people's experiences, and to know that once we are aware that not everyone experiences the world in the same ways that we do, it's important to become familiar with the ways, both general and specific, in which their experiences differ from your own. It's about opening our minds and then try to put yourself in other people's shoes and consider how your life might be different if you face the barriers and challenges they have. Understand these barriers are outside of their control, just as your privilege is often outside of yours. Work on having compassion for people whose lives are different from yours, and learn to be as frustrated by the barriers they face as you would if you had to deal with them yourself. Just because it doesn't affect you right now doesn't mean it's not vitally important to make the changes. Yesterday, as I was in the midst of that rally and that march, which was so incredibly peaceful and beautiful, I stood with my beloved spiritual offspring, Sweeney, as she sat in all of this noise and music and chanting and hollering and screaming and automobiles revving their engines peacefully and quiet, because the intent that was coming from each and every individual during this peaceful protest was to be peaceful. And I looked at each and every individual, realizing that physically, they're not only all different from me, but different from each other, because as we know, as Ernest Holmes has told us, the Spirit has placed the stamp of individuality upon itself and called it you. But each and every one of those individuals do not always get to experience the freedom that I have in our country. And so I made it a part of my life yesterday to dive into that. I'm not saying that to share with you that I want to pat myself on the back. I'm just sharing as an example that we all can choose to show up and protest in our own ways. It's important to protest, for protest is both a noun, a statement of action expressing disapproval of or objection to something, but it also can be a verb, that action step that we've spoken of, which is when we express an objection to what someone else has said or done. I'm sure we can all agree that things have been said and done this past week that we may not agree with. And yet, for change to take place in a way that shall be manifest as justice and equality, we must make our voices heard. For a protest is a public expression of objection, disapproval, or dissent towards an idea or a course of action, typically a political one. And protests can take many different forms, from individual statements to mass demonstrations. You get to decide what works for you. And so you can show up in life and you can march like SpongeBob SquarePants is doing there, or vote as we're asked to do there, which is a right that we have in this country, or pick up the phone, even that old school rotary dial one, and call your senator, call the police chief in Minneapolis, call those in power. Or if you're truly old school, write a letter or write an email. Have that conversation that I was speaking of, and not only just have the conversation, but choose to listen to the words that are being spoken to you. Stand up for what you believe in and make your voice heard today. For your voice is valuable. For your voice is the voice of God. Your voice is the voice of the divine. Your voice is the voice of history and experience. Your voice is the voice of an awakened individual that consciously supports other individuals finding their personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening. Your voice is the voice that is being called for today. For it's your voice in action that changes things. So today I invite you, as we kick off Pride as a Way of Life, to take actions that not only you would be proud of, but your ancestors will be proud of, that you're fighting for the rights of all of humanity, that your future will be proud of. In having a conversation with my soul mother yesterday, my soul niece was sharing with her and a great sense of tears and upset, recognition of not understanding how this is happening on our planet, of not understanding that this type of revolution, of evolution is taking place because she doesn't have the history that her grandmother or her father or her mother or her uncle has. But we have that history, and we know that we indeed can make a difference. For we understand at a very deep, deep, deep level the spiritual truth that we are one. That we are one. That we are one. And so I've shared with you, I remember hearing Malawians chant that out loud. And so today I know that we each affirm that together and choose to be the voice for those whose voices have not been heard. As we chant together, not only are we here to rise up, but we're to rise up and chant, "We are one," and then to live accordingly. And so I invite us to all take a deep breath in and let this sink in as we inhale. And exhale. Hearing the words, "We are one." For that is a spiritual truth. And we let it be as we say together, "And so it is." And so as we continue to let that spiritual truth resonate and sink in at a different level, I invite back the one and only Enjoy Fountain to sing to us, "Man in the Mirror," to further guide us on this journey of our own personal spiritual awakening and choosing to make a difference and be the change. Enjoy Fountain.
Gonna make a change for once in my life. It's gonna feel real good. Gonna make a difference. Gonna make it right. As I turn up the color on my favorite winter coat, this wind is blowing my mind. I see the kids in the street with not enough to eat. Who am I to be blind, pretending not to see their needs? A summer's disregard, a broken bottle top, and a one-man soul. They follow each other on the wind, you know, 'cause they got nowhere to go. That's why I want you to know I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. Woo. Na 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 na. I've been a victim of a selfish kind of love. It's time that I realize that there was some with no homes, not an equal to own. Could it be really me pretending not to see alone? A willow deeply scarred, somebody's broken heart, in a washed out dream. follow the pattern on the winter sea. And they got no place to be. That's why I'm starting with me. I'm staring with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. No message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. Starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. I'm asking him to change his ways. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. Gotta get it right. Hey, you're right, all right, you're right. Oh, yeah. I'm man, I'm laying in the mirror. Yeah, come on. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. Hey, everybody sing. Na 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 na. Oh oh, oh yeah. Gonna feel real good if you make that change today. Yeah, it's gonna feel real good. Come on, jump up. Yeah. Man in the mirror. Man in the, gotta admit yourself. Come on. Man in the mirror. Oh, yeah.
Hallelujah.
All right.
So fabulous. Thank you.
Oh, there she is. Thank you.
Hi, Odessa. Thank you so much.
Love you guys. Thank you so much for having
Love
me.
you too. So I'll say hello to Odessa. Hi.
Oh, my goodness. All right. See you guys later.
See you later. Thank you. And so I know we've heard from some of you that there were some challenges audibly during my message, and I apologize for that if that was the case. Hopefully the recording picked it up, and if you're able to miss stuff, you'll be able to pick it up later on the recording if you'd like to see it. So now is the time for us to participate in conscious giving of supporting our ministry financially, and know that all that you give is deeply appreciated, acknowledged, and put to wonderful, wonderful, wonderful use. And so the options for doing so are going to our website, CSL-LA.org, and click on donate, or you can go to the app in the App Store. Our app, the App Store, is Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles. It'll guide you through how to donate, or mail in a check, 1200 North La Brea Avenue, or you can call me at the number there and I can handle it for you privately. I invite you to, as we're getting ready for that, Yaron will walk us through our sing to us, our song, Love is Our Decision, and I will then end that in an affirmative prayer. Yaron, will you please take us along as we all take a moment and choose our method of donation?
Love is my decision. It's up to me to give up my heart. Love is my decision. No one else can tell me to start. And once I decide to change my mind, Source will show me how. And love is my decision. My decision, right here, right now.
And so I affirm for each of us that not only is love our decision right here and right now, but we feel the love that is as it is reverberated back to us. We not only sow that seed, but we appreciate being the plant as we let that love grow within us. And so I affirm and declare for each of us that we are prosperous, abundant beings, that we use the law of life in a way that not only multiplies and manifests itself, but is propagating itself as good for good on this planet. Here we grow again today. And we let it be as we say together, and so it is. Thank you, Yaron. Just want to give you an update of what's happening here at the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles. We will resume this week with our coffee clutch that takes place Wednesday at noon. I appreciate your support and me having to cancel that and our snappy hour this week as I needed to take care of a friend who had some surgery, and I'll just let it go to that. But we'll continue that this Wednesday at noon, as well as Thursday at 5:30. We have snappy hour. We come together and have a little fun and laughter and read poetry and just connect. So please be aware of that. I know many of you have reached out to me asking when and if we will return to the building at 1200 North La Brea. I know that the city of Los Angeles, or the county of Los Angeles, and the city of West Hollywood are looking that next Sunday that can start, but there are many different steps along the way. We're in ways we're a lot like a restaurant in the sense that we have. What I mean by that is that there are many different steps that have to be met before those doors can be open. And so just please know that the Board of Trustees is looking at that, as well as there will be a communication this week with the Congregation Colony staff and building. And so just know that discussions are being had, but right now we're staying in this format, and that's where we're at, and we'll keep you posted as we know more. If you have any suggestions on greater ways to come together as a community, either virtually or potentially in person, if you would like to do that, please feel free to email those to the office, and we'll be happy to get back to you. Also, if you have any other needs throughout the week that you'd like to have tended to, feel free to reach out to me and or one of our practitioners. Their name and contact information is on our website, csl-la.org. You can also connect that through all of our social media sites. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram, as well as there's a weekly e-newsletter that goes out every Tuesday or Wednesday that shows what's going on, and with an article from me that most oftentimes is a publication from someone else that I've put in there, but it's a point of reference for the week to be uplifted and grounded and inspired all at the same time. So if you'd like to receive that and you're not currently receiving it, and you're joining us through Facebook or some other method, if you go to our website, you can click on right away. It'll give you an option to click on and join that. So I invite you all to do that. As shared with you last week, at the end of the service, when I let you know that it's time to do that, I'll invite you to turn your cameras off once we disconnect from our social media sites, and we'll have a moment to commune together when that happens. I invite you that when we do that to please let me guide you on that process so I can support those that need help with their cameras, and then we can go into conversation. And so let's close with a meditation. So I invite you to sit back in your location. Just feeling the power and presence. As we go deep into our soul and make a covenant and commitment to ourselves today, to take a look into the mirror. And to take the steps that are necessary to have the hard conversations. To remember that being a spiritually awakened being is not about staying behind the confines of our mind, but by using this power that we have to invoke change, to do our part to protest the inequities and the injustices that have taken place on our planet. We do indeed say their names: Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, and those whose names we don't state but affirm right now that they are being heard and called forth. And so today we not only honor the peace and the power and the beauty and the joy and the light and the life and the love that exist in all beings of every color, but we rise up and do our part to not only acknowledge that Black Lives Matter, but to hold the systems accountable for righting these wrongs. And we know that no matter where we are in the journey of our life, as a result of the pandemic, where we're at socially, where we're at financially, where we're at chronologically, where we're at emotionally, that we have the capacity to seize the opportunity to make a difference. And so we do today. 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 And so it is. And so it is.